Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Brian McCown, and I am the AVP of Mortgage Operations here at Michigan First Mortgage. I'd like to welcome everyone today to the virtual home buying seminar. We're going to get started with everything momentarily. Everyone is muted, and we'd ask remain muted so we can hear all of the good information that we've got from our two special guests today. If you have any questions at all, the chat box is open. It's being monitored by Zareen Torrey, one of our hosts. And today's call, as you just saw, is going to be recorded. So let's get started. We can go to the next slide. We've got, again, a couple speakers here. Tyler Siemens, our loan officer, and Carla Vizzacaro, who is a real estate agent with Keller Williams. Happy to have the two of them there. They're going to do a little more of an introduction for you in a minute. Our topic today is very timely. It is renting versus buying. And as part of the virtual home buying seminar that we do on a monthly basis, we're excited to get to this topic because there's a lot of activity and a lot of questions coming in with what's happening in the housing market, what's happening with the availability of homes, what should we do? Rates are going up a little bit. So we're going to get into a lot of things with Tyler and Carla coming up here in a second. We'll give you a few takeaways, a little tips and tricks that you can end with. We'll close. And then we'll have a little Q&A. Again, if you have any questions at all, put them in the chat box. We'll monitor that and answer them there. If it's pertinent, we'll bring them into some of the questions in our discussion and make sure we can get you the best answers we can. So let's get started. So I would like to introduce Tyler Siemens. He's a loan officer here at Michigan First Mortgage. So good afternoon, Tyler.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Well, yeah, it's a pleasure to be here with you all and just to give you a little bit of insight about myself. So I've been a loan officer with Michigan First. This is, well, it'll be about 2 years in January. So I've been in lending for a while. Have done, pretty much a little bit of everything when it comes to finances, though. So, but I do have a passion to help people with just getting into a home. It's a big life decision. It's very rewarding to see just the smiles, the transitions with families, especially with renting to homeownership. So it's very rewarding seeing that I get to be somewhat of an impact in that process. And, obviously I can talk about, what kind of backgrounds I have and everything, but we're here for you. We're here to, really educate on this specific topic today. So thank you for having me.
Great. Appreciate that, Tyler. And Carla, why don't you say hello to everyone?
Hi, everyone. I just first want to say thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity. I've been a real estate agent for 5 years, October 1st. So it's kind of new, but I'm getting used to a lot of stuff and I've seen a lot of market changes already. I run a completely referral-based business. So if I make a friend, I either help a friend or I help a friend of a friend, and it's worked out really well for me. And I chose it because of the flexibility. I can keep my faith and my family first and then my business. So it works for everyone. And I hope that my clients understand that customer service is my number one thing. So I appreciate the opportunity.
Well, we're really glad to have you here, Carla. And Carla and Tyler both share a passion for making sure that we are serving whoever the borrower is on a loan, anyone interested in home ownership, and really making sure it's one of the largest financial decisions you'll ever make in your life as a homeowner, becoming a homeowner. And they do a wonderful job making sure that all the questions are answered, everyone's informed, they really understand what you want moving forward. So very happy to have you both here. So let's jump right in, because we talked just about how do you make the jump from renting to buying? Should I stay renting? Should I stay buying? So Tyler, I'm going to ask the first question to you. So what are the pros and cons of buying, and what are the pros and cons of renting?
Yeah, and that's a good question, because you can ask or answer it in a cookie cutter way. However, everyone's situation is different. So there's going to be highlights that are more important to other people than maybe the next guy. So, but when we're talking about pros, obviously, buying creates wealth. right? And it creates equity in a property that you have ownership over. And I think that's the biggest thing to harp on, is that it's yours. So obviously there is a loan attached to that property when you do have a mortgage and you're not a cash buyer, but that's the majority of Americans. And that's not going to, and that shouldn't stop people from getting into homeownership, because at the end of the day, you do build that equity. You have flexible options down the road, whether you want to take that equity out and use it for something, use it for your kids, use it for family members, use it for yourself. So there's a lot of opportunity when it comes to buying a house. As far as renting, I don't want to totally bash on renting and say like, oh, this is a terrible thing for everyone, because it's not. But renting does have a couple of pros as well. I think it's really pertinent to short-term goals, right? I don't believe that everyone should be a long-term renter, because you're going to be a renter forever, right? You're never going to get to that next step of establishing equity, buying something that's yours. You're just going to be continuously renting, right? And paying for someone else's goals and dreams, right? The landlord that you have. So if owning was such a bad idea, well, you wouldn't have a landlord, right? Because they wouldn't want to own it, right? So those, I think, are a little bit of the pros and cons. Obviously, homeownership comes with responsibility too. So I don't want to say that that's necessarily a con, but it is a responsibility. You do have additional things that you are responsible for, such as taxes, keeping up with the house, cutting the lawn, unless you want to get a hired paid service. So, but there are things that you are responsible for. So it does add on to that.
Tyler, you said something at the very beginning there. Home buying creates wealth. And I think that's an important thing. Can you just go just a little deeper into that? What do you mean by that? Because I think that's an important benefit, an important pro of home ownership.
Yeah. Well, you can really take, there's data on this, right? So there is, and anyone can look this up. It's staggering to the amount of the difference between someone that rents and someone that owns a home and what their wealth is. There are very few individuals that are renting that are wealthy, especially in Michigan. There might be a very outlier person somewhere in Manhattan that's renting. But for the most part, the wealth gap is significantly different within home ownership, because you take ownership of that home, right? And you're building, not your whole payment isn't just going to the bank and you're never going to see that again. And it's an investment, right? You're going into your house, building that equity, and you have options down the road, like I mentioned. So the wealth gap is significant. And yeah, feel free to look that up.
Yeah, no, it's just a very good point. Carla, what do you think is the biggest? We kind of went through some of the pros and cons, but I wanted to go to you from the realtor side. What's the biggest advantage of buying versus renting?
I definitely think I agree with Tyler that it's equity. People buy property to have other people pay rent. You're helping someone else. So when you pay the landlord, you're helping him build his equity as opposed to owning and building your own.
Yeah, and I think what both of you said is spot on. It's that equity. If you look in 2019 at home prices versus where home prices are now, you've had a large growth in equity. We've gone through some difficult times in the last few years, but from a home ownership standpoint, a lot of folks have quite a bit of equity in their home that they're free to use for the rest of their lives, and use that as a foundation. Very good. So let's focus on the buying. Obviously, we're a lender. Carla, you're a real estate agent. Tyler, just start. There's costs with buying a home. You touched on a couple things, but let's get into that. What are some of the costs that come with buying a home?
Yeah. The biggest one that everyone, I would assume, already knows on this call is down payment, right? But another one that there's a little bit of a gray area is closing costs. So typically when I go through an application with someone, I ask them, okay, well, what do we have to work with as far as your down payment and closing costs? And they're like, well, I have this much, right? And we need to be walked through necessarily. And I think this is a great point to get into this call, because that way it's not, jumping up at you when you are ready to buy a house, that you are prepared and you do know what the details are. But down payment, right? Every product and solution that we have is slightly different. We have different incentivizations with first-time home buyers. We have repeat home buyers. There's different products such as conventional, FHA. We have here our one and only portfolio loan at Michigan First as well. So down payment can vary depending on what the best product or solution is for you. But then we also have closing costs. So closing costs, there's a handful of things that fall in that category. I'm not going to bore everyone and list off every single closing cost thing that could be your way, but the main ones are taxes, insurance for your property, title costs, and typically a lender fee, right? So those are really the four bigger ones that you should expect to see and make yourself aware of.
All right, great. You started with something talking about down payment, and Carla, I wanted to ask you. I know that's one of the big conversations from a realtor standpoint. Okay, you want to buy the house. There's always going to be a down payment. How could I buy a home if I don't have a down payment? If I don't have the funds sitting in the bank to do that?
Yes. In general, people think that they need to typically put down 20% is what most people think when they talk about buying a home. And so I always tell them that they need to find a lender and go through the programs that are available to put less of a percentage down. And then on the other side of that, the agent can also ask for concessions in the offer that will help cover some of the closing costs.
So when you talk a little bit more about the concession, maybe just a couple points, because we've heard that phrase. What does a concession look like? What is that? How does that materialize for a buyer?
Let's just go with a $250,000 home. We can offer more and then ask for up to 3% of that sales price as a concession to cover. It can be a home improvement, it can be something on the inspection, but we can also ask for it to cover some of the closing costs, which help keep some money in a first-time buyer or any buyer's pocket to spend on the home once they're in.
Because we all know once you do purchase the home, there's always extra costs. Once you get in there, you might want to fix it up, make it your own. I'm going to pause just really quick for a second. Can anyone who just make sure that we're all on mute right now? We've got a couple. We have a little bit of background noise coming through, and I want to make sure that the speakers can get heard. Carla, I want to say with you, so when we talked about you've got to put some money into that. Yeah. And we look at rent. How does a buyer get over the fact that they've got to take their hard-earned money and just hand that over to someone else, and let them get a return on their money? We're going back a little bit to the landlord question, a little bit to the renter question, but you alluded to that earlier. That's effectively what you're doing. You're giving your money to a landlord and letting them benefit off of that.
Right. And you get zero equity off of that. And I think especially lately, I've seen first-time buyers move into a home and their house payment is less than the rent. And now they also have equity. So I think it's just really important to see what you can afford, what you can do, work with a good lender, and just make sure that you're not giving away money because you think you can't afford to get your own equity instead of helping someone else.
And education's the key on that. Is that a fair statement?
Absolutely. A good lender will walk you through the process, and a good agent will send them to a good lender. So it's teamwork for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Like anything, you get a good team around you. first and foremost. So, Tyler, so instead of giving our money to a landlord and we're looking at wanting to buy the home, they've reached out to you, they've reached out to Carla. How can somebody get their finances in shape before buying a home while they're still renting? What are some of those things they can do?
Yeah, and that's a great question. And like I said earlier, every situation is different per person. So what I like to do is I like to take a catered approach, have a discussion, ask questions, get to know each other, figure out what your goals are. Because the more I know about your situation, the better I'm going to be able to help you, right? So let's start with a game plan, right? You might be ready to buy a house right away, and we can say, great, let's get you shopping with Carla and get you into a house. But not everyone is in that I guess step of life. So what we like to do is to really take a look at your whole situation and come up with a solution. So maybe it's in a month, maybe it's in 2 months, maybe you have to clean some things up. And that's okay. We're here to work with you. We want to help you get to that solution. And if we can come up with a game plan for you, that's even better, right? Those are really the most rewarding types of files that we get to work on, and clients we get to help, because we can make a difference in their life, right? Someone with an 800 credit score, 50% down, they make 300 grand a year, they can go wherever they want and they're going to get whatever they want, right? But as far as the average American, that's not the case. And if you've never done it before, that's also, you're unsure. So let's go through all of the not only your situation, but then we can also, explain to you, what types of products and solutions are going to be best for your situation as well, and take you through that process.
So it's really a holistic view of
It really is
what that particular situation is,
Yeah.
not a one size fits all approach.
Exactly.
Yeah. You had said kind of get some things, together. When you talk about finances, you mentioned credit. Some of it's credit, some of it's actually assets, it's debt, it's things like that. Could you just maybe touch just a little bit more on maybe just a couple quick examples of each of, when you talk about getting credit, you mentioned 800 credit score, which we'd all love to have that. How do we get towards that point if we don't have it?
Yeah. And there's a ton of different solutions to different problems, right? There isn't just one way to get better credit. It could be, paying off some debt, or maybe it's lower utilization of credit cards, or maybe it's simply just tenure. Maybe it's just a lack of credit history, right? Someone can be right out of college, or maybe never touched a credit card because they were told it's dangerous, right? And sometimes it is. So if you don't have the knowledge, we're here to educate you about those things, and teach you the right way before you start doing it the wrong way. So those are a couple of examples. But when you're talking about, getting qualified, like you said, credit isn't the only thing. You have credit, there's assets, and then you also have your income as well. So maybe it's something about that. Maybe it's simply just time that you need at your job because you just got hired, right? So there are a couple of things that we can delve a little deeper into too.
Okay. Now, outside of finances, Carl, I want to come back to you because there's also some other benefits of home ownership. There are tax benefits of home ownership. Would you care to just talk a little bit about what some of those benefits once you become a homeowner from a tax standpoint?
Yes. So one of the biggest fears of becoming a homeowner, first of all, is paying taxes. But as you start getting into it, you know that you can write off your mortgage interest, you can write off some of the property taxes, and you can even write off some of the interest of the equity lines that you have. So there's just things that in rent, you don't have that option. But if you can own a home for the same or a little bit less, and then also get these tax deductions, it definitely pays off to own over renting. And
those tax deductions, that's going to show up February, when we all have to file our taxes, where whatever your tax bracket is, that actually helps lower. So you're saving money out of your pocket once a year to the IRS, correct?
Exactly. And you don't pay taxes in a rental situation, but if your payment's already lower and then you save even more, that's, always a benefit of owning a place and in getting that financial stability that you get from the equity in your home.
And if you're renting, I'm assuming there is tax benefits for the landlord. And so you could be paying their tax benefits.
Which is pretty much what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you're considering buying a house, we've talked a lot of great information here. What should we consider? If we've got some folks on the call, say they're renters and they're like, okay, we've got a bunch of bits and pieces. I think I'm ready to go. What do I need to consider right now? Or what are the next steps to, okay, I'm gonna make the jump. What should I do?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I would say you need to save. And second of all, you need to pay off any debt that you have. The main thing that I find lenders look at is your debt to income ratio. So you either need to increase your income or lower your debt to get in a better position. If you're in a good position already, you don't need to worry. But if it's a situation where you're wanting to get in the first time and it might be scary or new to you, you really need to just consider that ratio and do what you can to make one, either side better.
And is that and that's, again, I'm assuming a collaborative approach. They would talk to you, they would talk to Tyler, get everybody together and look at the whole situation.
I agree. It's a team effort. Tyler probably would know more what's available for each person than I do as far as lending. My forte is the house, not the lending.
Mm-hmm.
But it's nice to know who to send them to. And that's usually what they look at, is the debt to income ratio. And you can look at that yourself. Like, are you making enough to pay your bills and a house payment? You can kind of get a vibe on that and see how you could make yourself look better on paper before you start buying a home.
And Tyler, she mentioned the debt to income ratio very quickly. And I think that is also, do I make enough? Do I have enough? Could I even qualify for a loan program? Mm-hmm. Very quickly, what is the debt to income ratio that we've been referring to?
Yeah, so an easy way, when I started back out in lending way long ago, the best way to really remember, okay, how do I come up with debt to income? It's your monthly debts divided by your income, by your monthly income, right? So that's the best way to remember it. Just say debt, and then you make the T into a divided by sign, and then income. So there you go. It's based on your gross income, not your net. So not what you bring home, but prior to taxes being taken out and all these other things that, shrink your paycheck every month or whatever. That's how we qualify.
Okay. No, good, easy calculation there.
Yeah.
So we're almost up on time. I want to get one last question in. Is now the right time to buy? That question's been asked a lot. And Tyler, I'll go to you.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a very common question, right? And there's always going to be the public opinion of when is a good time to buy, and typically the public will say, oh, well, that's when interest rates are really low. Well, not always the case, right? So most people will want to buy low and sell high, right? That's how the market works. But that's not really what everyone does, right? Or else it wouldn't be that case. So right now, I think that there's a huge, I guess, incentive to a home buyer that can get into a home right now, because historically, you look at home values, we haven't really seen too many dips. It's a general trend upward, right? Obviously, we all know that rates are a little bit higher right now. But on average, a homeowner will stay in their home for about 12 to 13 years. And also on average, the average homeowner will refi their home about every 4 to 4.5 years. So what that tells us is that there's opportunities to lower your interest rate down the road, borrow equity, take things out. And right now, there's a much better chance of you getting a better deal on a home versus back in 2021 when the market was an absolute zoo, and people were just unrealistic, throwing out, property values just out the window and making rash decisions. So just to get that low interest rate. So there are always going to be good things to each type of market that we're in. You just have to focus on those things.
Great. No, very good information. I can't believe we're almost at the bottom half of the hour here. So very quickly, I just want to go through. We told everyone we'd have some takeaways. So Tyler, will stay with you. What are some 3 actions right now? Renting versus buying. Why don't you go through these on the screen?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that you're gonna always have to start with is finding out where you are, having that conversation, and starting out with a pre-approval. So if anyone has questions for me, obviously I'm an open book. I always tell myself that I'm a book of useless knowledge, but no, to be honest, it really starts with the pre-approval, figure out where you're at. And then really just choosing to invest in your goals and dreams, and not paying for your landlord's goals and dreams.
Strong end on that one. Yeah, make them your own.
Yes.
Carla, what about you? What are some 3 things we can take away?
Sure. First of all, I think equity is key. It helps you along in life. It's more financially stable. Tax breaks and special programs can help first-time buyers. So and the third one is it's really important to get with a good agent and a good lender who will walk you through and make you feel comfortable that this is the right time for you to buy.
Excellent. That is very good takeaways. I want to thank Carla and Tyler for coming on and sharing their information. I know there's been a lot of activity in the chat. It looks like there's some interest, so we wanted to share contact information. Overall for mortgage, if you have general questions, the info at michiganfirstmortgage.com is available. You can apply on our website with any one of our 36 loan officers. If you would like to call the mortgage team, 800-664-3828. Choose mortgage. And again, speak with anyone here. If you really liked what you hear, give Tyler a call. His number is down there, 248-727-6756. And then his email is as follows. If you're looking on the realtor side, please reach out to Carla. We appreciate her there. She is with Keller Williams Lakeside. Her number, 586-996-6644. And her email as well. So I'll leave those up for a second. The other part, we talked a little bit about insurance and just wanted to share with everyone, Michigan First does have an insurance company. We're here to assist you with homeowners coverage. We can actually shop a lot of options for you. It saves you time from calling all around. We've got over 40 insurance carriers. We look to get you the coverage you want, cost savings. You can always bundle home and auto to lower that cost, as Tyler and Carla talked about. Getting a plan in place. Insurance is a big part of it. You can visit michiganfirst.com/insurance or call the 866 number that you see there today. So, and we'll go to the last slide. Again, thank you everyone for joining. It's a great topic. Please reach out to Carla and Tyler with any questions. If you want to view this seminar, you can go to michiganfirst.com/mortgage-seminars. And we have this and all of the other monthly versions that we've done over the past couple of years. So thank you all. Have a great day and good luck on your journey from becoming renters to buyers. Take care.
Thank you.